Welcome to Forging Links. Forging Links is the voice of European social democratic activists with an Anglo-Dutch flavour. The podcast is an initiative of a union and the platform aiming to empower political activists by developing their skill sets, sharing their stories and generating social, environmental, economic impact. We're trying to promote the idea of politics with love, solidarity and prosperity. If you want to know more about a union, you can visit our website. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Dunn Street and the people from Socially Democratic Podcast who have helped us behind the scene, our producer Mike, and most importantly you for listening. So, enjoy. Thank you very much. Valentijn Brinkman-Koopal.
Yeah,
How you doing?
I'm doing great, Ali. How are you?
Amazing. Love it, man.
Yeah.
You're running for the Tweede Kamer, so the parliamentary elections. They put you so far down the list, they just didn't want you competing with everyone else, like they just they everyone else was complaining, like if they put you any higher, they'd lose, right?
Yeah, it's what I said to them. Save the best for last, right? So
Exactly. You're like that sweet dessert right at the end.
exactly. Yeah. That's true.
Cool, man. So today we're just going to be like talking to you about what I'm interested in mainly is like your story. You have a very interesting struggle that you've gone through, still going through to a certain extent. Every day is a struggle, and people hear more about that. And then get involved in politics, get involved in activism generally, and just hopefully we can get to know you better. But more importantly, we can learn from you, learn from your example, learn from how you've built yourself into the person you are today.
Sure.
Please, who is Valentijn?
Well, my name is Valentijn Brinkman-Koopal. I'm 34 years old. I'm married to Lisette, and like you said, I have maybe a little bit different story than the other politics. When I grew up, my childhood was okay, and once I started going in like my 14, 15 years of age, I was a little rebel. I got kicked out of schools and started doing drugs, and basically went into this lifestyle of hanging out in the bars and working in the bars, and it's a little bit strange world I got into. And then I did it for a couple of years, working in the hospitality business and there's a lot of drugs and drinking involved. And then down the road,
Whereabouts is this?
Well, what do you mean?
Where in the Netherlands?
Well, I used to live in Amsterdam. Yeah, I grew up in Amsterdam, and then when I got a little bit older, my first serious girlfriend, she wanted to move to Rotterdam, so we moved to Rotterdam. Then we got our own house and started working in the hotels. And then when our relationship was done, I moved back to Amsterdam. And then when I was back in Amsterdam, it all basically went downhill from there. So it was a difficult time of my life, and still is. I got out of it, but it was a long journey to get out of it.
So we're talking about, what specifically are we talking about? We're talking about binge drinking, completely being blanked out, on a monthly basis.
No, it started off. What I said was in the small introduction. When I was in high school, I was smoking weed. Can I say everything I want?
Say everything you want. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I was that's great, Ali. Thanks. No, first it was smoking weed in high school, then skipping classes, and had better things to do than going to class. And then once you get a D, it's a lower grade, right? The D is lower grade, and then they said, "Well, you're not going to finish school, so you have to do something else." And they kicked me out of school, and at home was not that good. My parents, were a little bit neglecting me, letting me do everything I like, and didn't paid much attention to me. So I was always outside. I was home late or not home at all, or and they didn't. Well, they cared, but they didn't show, I guess. Um, so when I moved back from Rotterdam to Amsterdam, I'm skipping a couple of years, and then I thought, oh, what is my life worth? What am I doing? What is my I was making, I think I was making 1,600 euros a month or so when I was still was well, a little bit more, I think 1,800 euros a month, and I was like, well, I can pay my rent with this, and if this is it for the rest of my life, I settled for less. I shared a home with a friend, at a very messy home, a very small home, and I didn't yeah treat myself good as I should. There was no proud in anything I did. So the only thing I was good at and was putting on a mask in the bars and making people laugh and having fun with them. And then, basically behind that mask, I was just very alone, very sad, and very depressed, actually. So I filled that gap with partying with so-called friends. They were, of course, obviously not really my friends, but I was the guy you went to have a good time. And I was there 5 days a week, so I had every day of the almost every day of the week I had a new friend or a different friend. And the days I were off, I would go into the city to not be alone and to do drugs and drinking with my so-called friends. So I was in it for 7 days a week. So it was really tough. I was I'm 72 kilograms right now. I weigh 72 kilograms, but I wore like 62. I was 10 kilograms lighter. I was very, very sick. I was totally addicted. I was then and then I met my now wife, then girlfriend, and then then we had an amazing connection, and we started off as friends, and then all of a sudden we started to really like each other, and then I said to her, you know what, I'm gonna quit with everything. I will stop using drugs and only maybe just drinking with you because I have fun with that, and but I couldn't stop. So I thought, you know what, maybe I should go do a day job. Working at nights, I started doing day jobs. I see you more often. And then I work from 12 to 9, and then after 2 months, I was like, yeah, well, it's pretty boring, and there were where are all my friends, and so I started tried to do cocaine during work. I did it before already in the evenings, but there was like an environment where everybody did it, so it was like a party, a bar, and this was just like all people were getting lunch with their grandchildren. I was high on cocaine. And then I thought, well, this is not working out. This is terrible. So I maybe do a breakfast job. So I worked in hospitality. So I thought working in a bakery, And then, all of a sudden I was using cocaine at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Like, is it more the addiction that the substance generates, or was it escapism?
Yeah, it's another addiction that my body like physically wants it or needs it. It's not like uh, heroin or something. It's like it's just my mental state was like I need to get this because I don't know why, because it was like, okay, I have money in my bank, I can get it, and it's the whole. Once I get this fire started in my mind, I cannot not do it. I cannot not do it. It was like I have to get it, and it didn't give me everything. I was so stressed out when I had to go home because it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when I have to go home and I have to have dinner with my girlfriend, and I was not hungry at all. I was totally high on cocaine, and I had to drink bottle of wine to relax myself. So I don't come, and I always when I went home, I was like, I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. I don't feel that well, and when I was off, the days my weekend days, I didn't use anything because I was so so tired and so fucked up, and I felt safe at home with her because could not use because there was no possibility for me to use. So yeah, it's like a different world.
When did that pivot? When did that Was there an epiphany moment?
No, there was nothing special. I wish I had a better story, but there was no like bright
I
light
mean,
where
the
I thought,
most real story, most people don't have epiphanies, man. There's
yeah,
only
but it
one
was,
guy, and the apple fell on his head, and everyone's been talking about it ever since,
yeah. Well, Ali, my story is like, she, I said to her like, I will quit. I will quit doing drugs, and
This is your
I will
girlfriend, yeah?
be a, yeah, here's my
Your
girlfriend. Yeah,
wife, no.
yeah, now wife. Yeah, and then I said to her like, I will quit, and then after a couple of months, she said, yeah, I think it's so that you did such a good job by uh, quitting drugs, and maybe you should go to like a rehab for aftercare.
Hmm.
So I was like, this is a great opportunity for me, so I can go to rehab without anyone knowing I'm going into rehab. So I went there, and I just basically faked the whole thing. I was they when my sessions were done after like 12 weeks or 6 weeks, they let me out with applause. Like, you did such a great job. And when I was in the therapy there, I was just ordering cocaine. I was like, yeah, I'm done in 2 hours. So I mean, meet me outside. And I was so specialized in lying, in uh, uh, telling, manipulating everybody. So
In front of somebody, you have a certain mask of, I'm rehabilitating myself, and in front of someone else. But it's the deceit, which you're probably referring to as the lying, but you have to, in order to justify one over the other, that duality of balancing all of that. Tell me more about that, like, internal feeling. Which one was more default, or was it a continuous struggle between the two parts of
w-
you? The one that wants to, you know, rehabilitate, and the other one that just wants to continue the way you were behaving at the time.
yeah, it was the same, because every day I knew I had to stop. I had to quit because it's not working out, and I knew if she finds out or someone finds out, I will lose everything, you know. But for example, when I went on holiday, there was no cocaine for me. So I was like, well, see, my mind was telling me, well, I can do two weeks without. I'm not addicted. I'm okay, and I can still, if she wants to see my bank account, I can still like quit for 2 months, and then she will see nothing strange. And I was making it up in my mind so that everything will be fine.
Society, we demonize people addicted to drugs,
Yeah,
any kind of drugs, even like medication that is
yeah,
prescribed. We demonize people addicted to their phones, addicted to pornography, addicted. These are obvious addictions that we,
yeah,
as a society, have come about and said that's bad behavior, and therefore anyone who's controlled by these things is bad. But there are other things that
mm,
we, other addictions that spring up in our lives that in society terms are positive. I knew people who were addicted to religion. So religion just completely controlled every aspect
yeah,
of their life. But that's seen as a very positive thing, or they're addicted to succeeding in politics. I would say the way Rutte behaved over the last couple of years, I'd say he's completely addicted to the position of power.
yeah,
It's very difficult for him to let go. Every move he did was not about people, public policy, betterment of society. No, it was just about him, and everyone knew it. But nobody
yeah,
would, of course, some of us would step up and be like, this is wrong. You need to, like, stop, you need to go into political rehab.
yeah, yeah. No,
Where,
you're saying the
so,
right thing.
but the behavior, it's about that, being controlled by X. And sometimes relationship also, like the person in your life is also controlling every aspect of your being, or you worry about, how would they react? Should I buy this or should not I buy this? Taking them into consideration.
Yeah, yeah,
Did that,
yeah.
that's what it sounds like from your side with regards to substance. Was that the case?
It's so strange, because what I cannot imagine how I was back then. Every move I make was 10 steps ahead. So I was so in control of my addiction. I thought I was in control of my addiction, so I planned everything out, but it was lies upon lies. I was covering lies with lies and making things up, and I was caught in my own web of lies. So once there was a point when I was home because I drank every day to relax, and then my girlfriend, now wife, she said, "Oh, you smell like alcohol," and I would just stand like 30 inches away from her, and I would say, "No, you're full of it. Why are you talking like this to me?" And I was angry, like really angry at her. So she had no, like, what the fuck is going on? I drank a bottle of wine, of course, but I was so convinced and so pissed off, and I could let that emotion go for the rest of the day. Like it was, "Don't talk to me. You think I'm a liar," and I was like really full of it, and like angry at her and pissed off at her. And in my mind, I was just like laughing, like, oh, she got it, she bought it, and then it was so strange. And then I felt sad and happy all at once, and I didn't know what to feel anymore. And then, well, after a while, she said, "Well, you're so strange. This is not the guy I fell in love with. I want to see you check your phone, and I want to see your bank account." And then I said, "Yeah, well, I'll check it at home because my battery is low." And when we went home, I just tried to break my phone. I just tried to smash it on the floor just to see that it would break. And then she could not enter my phone, and then, well, it didn't break. So she said, "Well, I want to see it." And I said, "No, you don't need to see it." And I said, I'm still addicted." And then our worlds crashed. I was doing €1,000 a month
Income or spending?
spending on cocaine. And I was making like 2,000 or something. So half of my salary was, because the other half was for bills and everything. I paid my bills, but also when like, for example, KPN was written off on my account, I booked it back so I can buy cocaine. It was really a fucked up period of my life.
As a society, when we come across people in that situation, and I'm talking about like health professionals, politicians, when they talk about people who are addicted to drugs, we have this, when we hear these stories, we easily start blaming the people who deal with it and blaming the people who use it.
Yeah.
But from your side, how responsible is the environment, the society, the responsibility laid upon you? Did that ever come up? That society had a role to play in providing you with the opportunity not only to not fall into the situation, but also to get out of it in an effective way?
Well, it's not it's not. I don't blame anyone for. I don't blame society. I even don't blame my drug dealer. With all due respect, he's making a living as well, and, well, with the wrong job, obviously. But yeah, it's really strange because he had a kid as well. And I don't blame anyone. And it's really strange because if you live in Amsterdam, you can get it quicker. You can get the coke quicker than pizza. But if you live in a village way up north, it's also easy to get, because it's everywhere. So yeah, we can blame society, but I think the most important thing is that once you feel sad or feel sick, or you're knowing that you're using a lot, the how do you say, I don't know how to say it in English, the drempel, like the boundary of
Yep.
telling, I don't feel good, can you please help me, has to be way lower. It has to be gone. Actually, you have to step in it anytime you like and ask. The stigma of shame has to get we have to get rid of it. That's the
I
thing.
think in politics, it's very strange because on one side, we want, we like, especially people on the left or progressives or socialists, they like
Yeah,
to have this idea that, we represent the average person, the working person. Most 80-90% of people are working, and they're
yeah,
basically defined under that banner. We like to think that we represent all of them. But when there are people who have gone through these experiences come forwards,
Yeah.
we tend to hesitate. And what I mean by that is there are politicians who are caught while they are in elected position using cocaine, using
Yeah.
drugs, or prostitution, or any other demonized act. They are caught, it's a scandal, and they're kicked out.
Yeah.
For me, that sends really the wrong message. One, their reflection, most of the time in a democracy, they're a reflection of society. If we want to solve anything, we have to solve the systemic problem in society first.
Yeah.
And then we look at an individual. But we continuously scapegoat individuals who rightfully or wrongfully have done something that we don't accept in terms of ethics.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to think higher about what message are we sending to a young person who is struggling with addiction.
Yeah.
And then they switch the TV on and they see the shame, the demonization, the scandal, the paparazzis all over that politician or person. And they'll be like, you know what? There's no place for me. So if I get out of this feeling and then someone catches me and says, we got a video of you doing this, then what's the point? Society's going to I'm already the devil, so why should I change?
Yeah. That's a good point.
How can after what you've gone through, how can we change that dialogue, as a society, promote a healthier way of approaching people who are struggling, especially with addictions and mental health?
If from my point of view, I thought when I entered like local politics, my parents and my godparents, they just told me like, are you sure you want to do this because you had addiction? And it's basically the same thing you said, right? They were putting me down and they tried to protect, and I was like, yeah, well, I think it's way important. I will just tell them. I will tell everybody, and if they don't accept me for who I am, then this is not my cup of tea. This is not the place I should be. So I just told them up front. I told everybody about it, and I can do good with it.
And in the application, I'm not sure about the application for the Tweede Kamer, but I
Yeah.
do remember I have seen some applications for elected positions.
Mm-hmm.
And it does state within the application, you inform us of anything that could be scandalous or of a risk to the party's reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two sides to it. One is justified because you want to be like, okay, if this scandal is going to break, we want to deal with it and we want to help you. But when it's in the beginning of an application for somebody that's unknown, it's a bit like asking somebody for their criminal record for something they did when they were 13.
Yeah.
And it denies their ability to change or even justify. In a one paragraph, you have to state what you did and how it's a risk to the party without explaining how you evolved.
Yeah.
Is that something wrong with the process or with society? Is that something wrong with the parties trying to safeguard themselves, or is it a social problem, a systemic problem?
Well, I think it's a social problem, and also maybe also a little bit with the party, of course. But for me, I already told them up front, and my story was already out before I applied. So I knew there was no scandal for me, and I don't think addiction is a scandal. Like, I think addiction is, well, I think the process of an addiction could be a scandal. Like you robbed the bank to to buy your cocaine, and I think using cocaine is in a form of addiction is not a scandal at all. It's just someone who needs help, and
And help in that moment. It's not for everything is temporary in that sense.
Exactly.
It's not forever. I mean, do you still feel sometimes, in terms of physically, the urge to, when things are difficult,
to use cocaine, or for example?
Yep.
Well, not that much actually. Almost never. But for a couple of days, like we went to Brussels, right? And
Mhm.
I read in the Brussels on the website like things to do and things you should know. Because this was my first. It sounds strange, but this was my first time I went alone somewhere without my wife to
Mm.
not protect me, but I'm always with her. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm gonna
I mean, that's your
go out.
environmental support. That's your support
Yeah,
network, of course.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So I was like, I'm gonna go with these guys, and oh, I could get a beer, but I can't, So I don't drink at all. But these thoughts just they go with 300 miles per hour in my mind. And I said I looked that up, and in some bars or in some subways or so, you can only pay with cash. That's what I read. So I thought, I will take some cash with me in case my phone dies and I can take a cab home or whatever. So I took 150 euros with me in cash. And then I spent 100 euros in cash in Brussels. And when I got home, I totally forgot about the 50 euros in my wallet. And this was like last week. And so I was in the car, and I was checking out my cards and everything. And I found this 50 euros. And I was like, oh, no one knows I have 50 euros. So this all of a sudden, my mind, my addiction mind played up like, well, you can just keep it, you never know when you have to use it. And it was like the devil was, and I was laughing at it because I know I'm not going to use it anyway. So they immediately took it out and gave it to my wife, and told her like, oh, the strangest thing just happened in the car. And I was checking out my cards, and I found this 50 euros, and I actually hid it away again, because I thought, well, maybe in a point I can use it. Or it's so strange.
Gone through this experience of yours,
Yeah,
and then going forwards with that into politics, into a very open social life,
yeah,
being very open about it. Do you worry that it defines who you are to a certain, the irony is, like the very thing you're escaping from becomes the thing you are known for. Like a bit like there are people who, for example, fought against dictatorships. I know many of those from my past, and then they are defined by that struggle alone. Nobody
yeah,
knows about their artistic ability, about their creativity, about their aspirations outside of that struggle. They don't even give themselves space for that because they become totally ingrained in that from a personal story narrative, and society sees them only through that lens.
yeah,
As an example, today we're not talking about your creativity. We're not talking about, you know, your educational aspirations, your reform that you want to do locally. We're talking about cocaine. We're talking about addiction. We're talking about the very thing that you are struggling with. That's a good thing, but at the same time, how does it feel to be defined by these things?
well, I'm not sure yet if I'm defined by these things, but I think there's a big possibility that it's gonna turn out this way, because this is my story, and yeah, and in all reality, I think if I'm defined by letting people know they have an opportunity, even though they struggled with addiction, I think that would be a blessing, and I will take that part with all my heart. So if people think, oh, this is Valentine, he's the alcoholic with the cocaine addiction, but he's going to Den Haag to the Tweede Kamer. Well, I'm totally fine with it, and if I can help people on that kind of level with it and be an example, or hopefully an example for them, well, then it's fine. I know what I'm worth, so that's okay. I have ADHD, so I have my impulse control is very low. So I was at when you're in the bar and you're or at birthdays, or you're at family and with family and with friends, and it's always at some point it's going about politics, and I was always a PvdA follower. I was not a member yet, and then I was like, um, I was so sick of it because everybody had their
But
opinion.
why was there a family connection, a local connection?
No,
And
not at all.
Amsterdam's a
No.
pretty like Amsterdam has a strong red city
Yeah, yeah.
historically as well.
My parents were PvdA, but not very, very, yeah, fanatic about it, or very eager to express their feelings about the PvdA. They were just that the party they voted on. But yeah, that was at one point I moved to the place where I lived, and the scandal of the
Toeslagaffair?
yes, thank you. I don't know
Yeah,
what to
it's basically like educational. Well,
funds,
it's
right?
more. It's basically like a subsidy to have your kids go to after childcare.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly. That
basically the
the scandal
childcare
was
scandal.
the
Childcare
scandal was
scandal. Yep.
going on,
Yep.
and I thought, you know what, I'm moving to a new place, and I don't know that much about politics, and I just want to know the truth. I just want to get more involved and closer to the core of what's going on. Then I sent the chairman of the PvdA Baarn, where I live. I sent him an email like, I'm moving in June. It was in January when I sent him this mail. I'm moving in June to Baarn, and maybe you have a place for me so I can promote or flyer at the next elections. Then I got asked to have a conversation with him, and all of a sudden I was campaign manager. And after 2 months, they said, "Well, maybe you go on the list." And I went on the list, and I got elected, and then I got let in on the PvdAcademy. And then I met you guys and all young socialists who want to change the world. That inspires me so much every day. So that's when they said to me, "Yeah, Val, you should try to get into the Tweede Kamer. Just try it, and we will support you." And then I did, and then it worked.
If you could go in there to the Tweede Kamer, what
Yeah,
would be the one key thing you would want to make a difference in?
the one key thing I think I will promote mental health. That's my thing. I see so many people. I'm not like educated. I don't have any diplomas, and what I know is people. I can see people. I can see if there's something on their mind, and I see every day. I see people struggling. I don't know how it was when you grew up, but my parents, around me, they told their kids like, if you don't get a diploma, you won't be able to get a job and buy a house. Like the pressure is on there, and if I see where I live in, Baarn is like, I, this is like a white privilege town. There's all like the elite people live here. The average house price is over 500,000, and then my house isn't. I have a normal house, but like the houses around me are like 1 million plus, and people grow like kids grow up knowing like this is the normal standard. Yeah, this is the standard I live for, and they see their mothers and fathers driving big cars, and so I think the perception of what's normal and what is okay, or what is, as long as you are fine with it, is totally is missing.
No,
Like
no,
they have to live up to such high standards, and I can imagine that a lot of kids are depressed.
because of this,
Yeah,
because of knowing that and they get set up from the age of 11,
yeah,
and that trajectory is set in stone from the age of 11. My friend, I went to university. I failed my first attempt at university. Then I had to pivot to another one. I knew I always had to get that diploma because nobody would respect, I had to get that
mm,
degree. I didn't know how to learn, let's just say, properly
yeah,
until about the age of 25. I mean, I'll talk about it, and people can hear about that in another time. But basically, until 25 is when I became like, oh, I can, I can understand what's happening in the world. And imagine I was set in stone about where the limits of my aspirations were at the age of 11.
yeah,
I think it would have just shattered me, destroyed me.
yeah, of course.
I would never be here today had that started off all the way back. So I think there's a missed opportunity, and I believe there are people in the Tweede Kamer
Yeah,
within our party and other progressives who are looking at
yeah,
reform in that area. But let's go back to mental health and your
yeah, sure.
journey. Um, you want to bring mental health. Now that's such a broad topic.
Yeah.
Is there something specific that you see is wrong and that we need to campaign to change?
Well, yeah, actually, I got this idea of like you have like the gyms, the fitness gyms, where you can pop in to anytime you like. And maybe this is a good idea to do this for mental health issues as well. I'm going to like what you see in the movies, like for example in AA, you sit around in a circle and you just tell you, my name is Valentine. I'm suffering from addiction. And then everybody says, "Hey, Valentine, you see what like you were people around you who are similar. They also have problems." And I think this is not outspoken that much because mental health issues is such a big issue. Like people have burnouts. The kids nowadays it's the highest amount in the Netherlands in history of kids who are suffering like to the age of 25 with pressure, suffering from too much pressure, um, um, too less sleep, addiction. Like there's no place to go for them. Like the mental health is everybody is a coach. Like you have a lot of people who are psychologists, but you have also like a lot of coaches or people who develop programs, but it's not valid as for your insurance. So once I go to the local psychologist who is connected to a big insurance company, I'm insured for that. But if I go to a local one, if I need so,
Mm.
like for example, in an hour I feel totally depressed and I need to speak someone maybe because maybe I'm gonna hurt myself or whatever. It the boundary of 80 euros to see someone, it's 80 euros. It should be paid for. So I would like to reduce the boundaries of going to a psychologist, of to a coach, and I want to be affordable for everybody because I think if we feel good, we will do good. And if you go to work and you make $1 million a month and you are totally depressed by it, the money is worth nothing. And if you feel good and you go to work and you make 100 euros a day, then 100 euros feels like a million.
So you're talking about mental health clinics, walk-in mental health clinics. You're talking about promoting, AA style circles on a local level and supporting those, providing space for those, providing funding for even as little as just hiring the space or some refreshments. Sometimes as simple as that, or providing just a facilitator to be able to start up these things. You're talking about like social workers equivalent, so mental health workers equivalent of who go around the community ensuring the well-being of people. You're talking about ensuring payments for more than just coaches. There are some therapies who are clinically proven to not be valid, to not be of use to society, are funded by insurances. And yet this, for example, not all, it's actually declined. I know that there are at least one health insurer has reduced its payments towards mental health rather than increase. And that's because it doesn't make financial sense unless we give them the incentive, meaning we make legislation and impose that legislation on them. And then finally, we're talking about like society and social, us all together, how we can impact that.
Yeah.
How can we do that? How can I do better? How can I, in my local area, support people who are struggling with addiction? How is that? How can I do better in that regard, from your point?
If you want to help people out, for example.
Yeah, like what is one thing that you think while you were going through what you were going through would have made it? Because you talked about loneliness, for example, during that time. You talked about not having access to people to talk. How can I do better?
Well, what you can do is it's and I'm not trying to promote my wife here, but she's a social worker where we live, and she's specialized in more like if you're losing someone, for example,
What type
and
of
she has opened like meetings. She promotes it around where we live, and then 1 hour in every 2 weeks in the evening on Wednesday, people can come in and
So like
like
grievance counselor?
yeah, exactly, yeah. But you can do it for loneliness. You can do it for addiction. I opened two meetings in the morning in Amsterdam, like 7 o'clock in the morning. I went this morning as well. It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays when people can get together and tell what's on their mind, and that doesn't have to be necessary only bad things. It could be good things, just share with each other how you're feeling, and then you can say, well, I felt that way as well. I thought, oh, I'm not alone, so it would help out. So if your question is how can you help, well, just walk into your local gemeente and say, what can we do? I have this idea. I want to help people out. Is there room for it? Because I know like a coach who can do it for free, or for 50 euros or whatever. You can start by taking action. If you see that around you, there's they need help, just go into action.
When you were growing up, what was your most significant aspiration? Like something you wanted to be growing up?
Oh, I still want to be a right winger at Ajax.
Growing up, like it was rare that a footballer would go past the age of 32. Only goalkeepers used to get to like
Yeah,
35. And you're like,
yeah,
oh, 33 and they're going to retire. That's it.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
Ronaldo, Cristiano is like a 39 plus now.
Yeah, he's turning 39. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Zlatan retired last year. He was 41.
he's retiring because, um, he's retiring because, he needs to give some other people a break,
Yeah,
because,
yeah. Zlatan. I love
we
Zlatan.
don't play football. We play Zlatan. Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
so he's
Exactly.
stepping aside for that.
Yeah, this
But
guy's a
yeah,
legend.
indeed. Do you feel sometimes when you're sitting in the council room and these civil servants are like throwing all these big terminologies around, all these ways of confusing what they're doing in the council? Do you feel like a sense of like like you're not welcome there, or like an imposter syndrome feeling where you feel like, I don't know what is going on
Oh
in the
yeah.
council? How do you deal
Last
with
night.
that?
Well,
Tell me
I
about
just
last night.
what are some terms of words I just don't know. you know
Mm,
so I just ask, what is he saying, and I'll, what is he or she saying, and sometimes I just don't get it, and I'll look at afterwards. I look at review it back, and then I sometimes just Google it when we're in the room, and someone's using the word, or someone, farther along the way. There was this city councillor who brought in a motion, like, to that he asked for the city council to come up with understandable language, Dutch language, for everybody. So like the people outside of this city council could know what's going on. And I thought that was a very good one. And then he asked for it again in like a ton of incredible hard words to define, like to is it,
like
not define,
redefine.
yeah, redefine,
Yeah.
so sometimes I just ask when I don't get the question, and I will just raise my hand, and I've said, I have absolutely no idea what you're saying. Can you please tell it in a sentence that I can understand, and people outside of this room can understand? Because I think you're onto something, but I don't know what it is. And then
Mm.
some people will laugh, but not at me. But sometimes afterwards, I heard, like, thank you for asking that, because I
Yeah.
had no
You'd be
idea what they
surprised how
were
many.
talking about.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. A lot of people are just like don't feel welcome to ask, and I think that's one of the key things about involving people who are not embedded in politics, in the sense that they haven't worked in a council, they haven't worked in the parliament. All these
Yeah,
terminologies, they need somebody from the outside of politics means completely something different now that, with the Trump era. But outside of politics, in the sense that, you're coming in and you're trying to represent people all
yeah,
from all walks of life, and you need to make it understandable. I know for a fact, when I used to be in the council as well, they use language to camouflage, to cover up, to mislead.
yeah,
And that's not just, people think that's just politicians who do that. Everyone does that. even in the corporate life, people do that to try and just misdirect. It's kind of like just the magic that they have in their hands. But I
Yeah.
want to know more about your feelings. Like, does it motivate you to keep going, or does sometimes you question yourself when you're faced with this kind of imposter
No,
syndrome?
no, it doesn't, like, it doesn't motivate me to keep going because I have a motivation. I want to go, and doesn't I don't really care if people say something I don't understand, because in the end I will let them know I don't understand it, because I want to get to know the questions and give a good answer to it, because then I have to ask what the question is. And I have a quality that is that I don't think that much about what people think of me, or how I come over to. I'm not afraid to admit that I don't know something. You know,
Well,
I think,
I mean, that plays in the role. You've been very courageous to share your story, but
yeah,
you give off the feeling that it's just you sharing your story. It's not about. It doesn't seem like you have a struggle to tell your story. You want
no,
to tell
like,
your story, straight up.
Ali, what the thing is, if you from up front, like from the moment I will walk into a room of people I don't know, I will always be vulnerable. I will always tell how I'm feeling, and I always tell if I had a good or shit day, and if some people offer me a drink with alcohol, I said no, thank you. Oh, you're hangover, you don't want to drink? No, I will tell my story. So if I'm upfront, I'm vulnerable. I'm unvulnerable. People can't get me because I already told them. They already know my story. So people are never able to get me.
Have you been in situations where telling your story has backfired? Because that's the fear, right? Has
Yeah.
that materialized in the form that
Uh, well, not that I know of, actually. Not yet. I think it will backfire in the future somewhere. And um, even though in my application for the Tweede Kamer, they ask specifically about this, because they ask how long I was sober for, and if they see any chance of a relapse.
remission?
Not
Yep, yep.
in these kind of words, but they were trying to make sure that they, yeah, didn't got a junkie in the in the Tweede Kamer. And that was the first moment I felt like, okay, these people are cautious with me. Maybe they think I'm unstable because I'm very busy of myself. I cannot sit still for a long time, and um, so maybe they were cautious. Maybe because I told them, like, you need to put me in the top 10, because I know you don't need 10 of me, because it will ruin everything, because I'm all over the place. But you have to at least one, because it doesn't make any sense for me to be on the bottom of the list. I will do it because I'm very glad that I am on the list. But like, if you move me on top, I can make a difference. I can be a face for a lot of people who actually want to be in my shoes. And don't are still afraid to express their feelings, and I'm not afraid to express my feelings. And I think in the politics, it's always like, um, if you look at Rutte, he waves everything off. Everything is someone else's fault, and he never takes the blame for things, and never gets emotionally involved with things. And I think I thought I wouldn't. I never thought I would say it, but I think people like me and people like you need to be in higher positions, just to send a message. Not to make important. Well, of course, make important calls, but just to send a message, like it is possible once you set your mind to it. And be vulnerable, and tell people how you feel about things. I think
Well,
that's
I
the
find
most.
it's very interesting that we and many people around our network, people we know, have the same sentiment, which is we need to we need to step up, we need to get into positions in politics, within the parties, within the society generally, because
Yeah.
we have the burden of responsibility on our shoulders. We take that on board and we go forwards with that. I always wonder about the people who get into these positions without that feeling of responsibility, because it's clear. It's very clear the people that don't feel that sense of responsibility, and doing politics to them is just like,
It's a
oh,
career.
that'd be interesting. It's a career. It's interesting. Why not? It's kind of like they're doing it out of benevolence, out of the goodness of their heart, but their heart is not in it.
No,
It would look, if we didn't have that responsibility on our shoulders, it would be very liberating. We could do so many other things in our lives,
yeah,
but we clearly do feel that responsibility, and you clearly feel that responsibility.
yeah.
How do you keep up with the knowledge part in politics and awareness? Do you read often? Do you listen to audiobooks, podcasts? How do you keep up with not news but knowledge as such?
Well, this is not a very sexy answer, but I ask the people around me how they are. This is the way I can get my news from, and just to know how people feel. Um, everybody's. It's easy to say everybody's against the war in Ukraine. Of course, I can watch the news and I can watch Wopke Hoekstra um, go to Brussels, and I know about, and I'm up to date. That's easy to know. But I think what's the most important thing is the people around you. Like your neighbor or the friend of your neighbor. How is he feeling? What is his day-to-day struggle? And that's the PvdA, right? That's the society we are. We want to get involved in the society. We want to solve the society so we can solve the country, not the other way around.
And that
That
that kind
yeah,
of grasp, one of the most amazing things in the past, the labor movement or the socialist movement, when you look at the grassroots, especially in Northern Europe, you see that it, the intent of education, the intent of educating each other, it
yeah,
was not dependent on the state to educate. It was dependent on, if we're going to sit together in the pub or in the kroeg or in the local square, we're going to
yeah,
talk and discuss and educate each other.
yeah,
If
exactly,
if
yeah,
if Tim knows something, he's going to come in the circle. He's going to talk to us. That building of social bonds based on sharing of knowledge, skills, experience.
yeah,
That is something that we need to ensure continues, and we
yeah,
continuously have. That's the intent here. We want to share your story so others can also feel free to share their story and continue that relationship, because as much as technology has taken over, what people don't realize is at the beginning of the labor movement in the late 19th century, so
mhm,
1880 or something, the immense amount of technological change, of industrialization, was incredible. It was nothing like we've seen, nothing compared to what the transition, like when we transition to generative AI today,
yeah,
it's just going to be like, you know how to use a laptop, you know how to go to Google, you know how to prompt and write into ChatGPT or any of those. And then, so we know there's a transitional knowledge, but
yeah.
going from sewing to operating a machinery, that's a huge transition
That is
that
true.
people did go through. And yet you find that's the highest moment of social interaction
Yeah,
in the labor movement, in the socialist movement, in the progressives. And I think that's what we need to reignite. The more technology we have, the more that should justify our increase of human bonds.
yeah. I totally agree with you. For example, like the Labour Party, like the Partij van de Arbeid, the Labour Party in the Netherlands. Like, what did we do? Like, really, like, except for the minimum wage, like we try to extend the minimum wage. What did we really like? I don't want to downplay the Partij van de Arbeid, but what did we really do? Like for the last years, I'm very critical about this part, because what I see now is like, all right, if we have the FNV, and if people like from the NS or the teachers, they don't get enough
Unions, yeah.
salary, they go on strike. No, well, it takes a while, and then they get a little extra. And normally the Labour Party was for this. Like they come up for the people and they went on strike and they went to the gemeentehuis and they pulled up signs. But it's not this. This is not there anymore. You know, like there are so many new problems in the world right now, and I think the Partij van de Arbeid, the PvdA, is still at one point still hanging on like the old school style we were, like the traditional party we were. But I think we are on the step of evolving. You know, we still have that. We still have to have that rebellion, fighters mentality, but on a social level, because we have to invest in our people. Like the people who are going to work, and the laborers who are going into work. We have to give them so much like weapons to go out and conquer the world. You know, like we have to feed them with knowledge and perspective, and that's we have to do it the other way around now.
So
I don't know if it makes any sense,
yeah.
but
I mean, it does make sense in the sense that the labor movement didn't start
yeah,
as a party. It started off as a movement of people coming together, unionizing together, being a collective. And at some point they said, you know what, we need to enter politics, and therefore we need a party to do that. I think there's a lot of responsibility laid on the party itself, but we're forgetting that the party is just one mechanism of
yeah,
performing change. It takes much more than that, and that's what we're missing. And of course, we can point fingers at the party and say, why are they not doing that? Because we assume there are resources, there's a network they have access to, there's a lot there resources that people who want to reignite the movement can pull into.
yeah,
But it takes people to move people.
yeah.
And that's the key. I don't think the party is in a position to be able to do a lot of the aspirations that the members have. And therefore, it's up to the members to organize,
Exactly.
to bring those resources, to do something about it outside of the party. And that's what I think has been missing. Why? And I believe if we win the elections in 22nd of November, there's a danger that we get swept up again. We're going to be in government, and the expectations are going to be like, oh, now they need to do it.
Yeah,
No, regardless of the result, regardless of the outcome, regardless of who wins and leads the party in parliament, our movement, our progressive, social, ecological movement needs leadership on every level, needs to be ignited on every level. And that's
totally
what we
agree.
need to work on.
Yeah,
The
totally agree.
elections the elections are not the objective. The elections are a symptom
Yeah,
of the success of community organizing, of upskilling leaders in our movement. And we hope a union, forging links to this podcast, having conversations with you, the PvdA Academy, Groen Licht, all of these different groups are trying to fill in that gap. And we need to be as proud of the leaders doing that kind of work as we are of them who get elected. So it's a change within us that we need to do as members and as aspiring leaders and activists. We need to champion every single person who bothers to take out a few hours of their Saturday to do something for society. We need to champion that person. When we successfully do that, I think the movement will consequently, society will appreciate it. And as a symptom, we will start winning elections. We will start being able to have reform on a higher level.
Yeah. Then it's up to us.
Indeed. Valentijn, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so
you,
much for your energy. Thank you so much for your struggle. And it really, really, like, you embody trying to do politics with love, with solidarity with others, with trying to allow people to prosper. And keep at it. And let us know when you are down. Not
Yeah,
because
well,
you are down, but because it gives us the permission to also reach out to you when we are down.
Thank you, Ali. That's a beautiful
Keep up the
message.
struggle, bro.
Thank you, Ali.